normally I forget that late. So I picked this thing up at Valley Village. Because you know I'm an influencer. Anywho. Yeah, I left my own joke. So this isn't what I was going to work on, but this is what I am working on. So the Invader, the original, the re-release of the Invader. Actually, surprisingly, I actually don't have an Invader, the original, in my room. They're all packed up. I did have a, as I mentioned a while back, a Renegade that I picked up in a used lot just last year. But of course it's missing two 2x2 yellow tiles with black stripes. And I keep on thinking I'm gonna get out my Cricut and printing the black stripes, but is that a cheat? I don't know. But because I know how much those 2x2 tiles, yellow tiles with black stripes, go for on the Bricklinks. So the Invader came out first a while back, a year or two ago, and I, of course, drove all the way to Sherway Gardens to get one. And this was a gift with purchase. In order to attain this coveted set at the time, I had to buy $130 worth of product in the store to get a gift with purchase. Actually, more than 130. I think it was 150. It was expensive. So at that time, the only thing in the store that I wanted to buy was, let me see if I can pull this up without wrecking my room. And the boxes fall. This guy, which is still, Autobots, transform and roll out. So let me just clean up the rest of the boxes that just fell on the floor here. And Optimus is holding up. So, including this guy. So I bought him. I bought Optimus, but I was short a couple bucks, so I bought a small space set or whatever at the time. And then I got this thing, and I brought it home and I built it. And I thought, oh, this is fantastic. I got a second one a few weeks later on the marketplaces where somebody was selling it new, but not in box. They had already built it, and then they took it apart and they sold it, and I got it for like $30. I could not, 20, 30 bucks, could not pass that up. So I went and picked it up. So I got two of these, and they were basically stock, built by the instructions, which is these original hookies and the original dark blade things in the back to connect to. And I was good enough with that. I didn't mind the connector points between the three modules. What I didn't like, I think this part comes off too. I think this comes off. It does too. I think I modified that. I can't remember now. What happened was that when this guy came out, let me break that piece off. This is fantastic. Let me put this guy back together really, really quick. Just go. There we go. I should have been more prepared for this. When the re-release of the Renegade, this is the one problem I have with this set, is these landing gears. When a Renegade came out and they had same parts, but different connector points, so you could not connect the Invader to this thing, I said that's not good enough for me. So I modified both the Invader and the Renegade so you can mix and match parts, because that's what I do. So instead of using those little clippy points, as this one is wont to do, I was gonna take this apart, wrong one. This guy. Instead of using these hookies, I went back old school and I replaced, oh man, this is what I can't say about the landing gear, with the old peg and Technic piece, Technic brick connection. So you can see that back there. And so I did that to the Renegade, and I did that to one of my Invaders. Put this piece back in here. So I did that so you could take the Invader, which I have here, my modified one, where I used friction peg bricks, and 1x2 Technic bricks. And you could say, hey, I'm going to put the Invader piece on there, on the Renegade, so you can mix and match pieces, which was the original intent of the original Blacktron series. So to me, I mentioned it. To me, it was a deficiency. I didn't shake my fist in the general direction of Denmark for that deficiency, but it was a deficiency for me nevertheless. And that's because the original intent of Blacktron 1, at least for the first 3 sets that came out, which was the Bat Racks, the Renegade, and the Invader. I think the Message Intercept base came out a year later with the little walker thing as another set, 5 sets for the original Blacktron. I think there was one more little tiny set, but it was just kind of thrown together, I think. But anyway, those 3 sets, Invader, Renegade, and Batrax, all the pieces were mixed and matched. They all had exactly the same connector points on them. So you could put all the pieces together, all the modules together, and have a big capital ship or whatever else like that. You can mix and match pieces. And that was the brilliance of Blacktron 1. And so when the re-release of the Invader came out, and they did not, and then the Renegade came out, and they did not adhere to that. To me, that's a deficiency, and so completely forgivable and understandable deficiency, because they're made by different designers, from what I was told. But I decided to fix that by going back old school. I mean, I could have made the clips standard on both sets so they could fit together, and that would have been easier. It would have been easier for me to either modify the Invader or modify the Renegade to have exactly the same connection points, because it was exactly the same pieces. They use this new 2x2 let's see, this new 2x2 piece here, which is really cool, but of course that's where the clippies connect into. But the clippies and the 2x2 were not in line with the clippies and 2x2 on the Renegade, so you couldn't mix and match pieces very well. So I could have just fixed that by putting all the clippies and the 1x2 fancy brick at the same spot on both sets. So I could have done that, but of course I decided that I'm too old school for that, and I went to the 1x2 Technic bricks and the 1x2 bricks with friction peg on it, and I have been moderately happy with the success of that, because like you get that, right, the 1x2, and then you take the engine off here, the 1x2s, and you put them there like that. Bob's your uncle. And then you can take this over here and get the, where am I? This guy, the Invader, and then put the engine in the back. Just like that. See? Piece of cake. The Invader, however, had one more deficiency, is that it didn't have the what we'll call it the octagon setup that the Renegade had. Looks like whoever designed the Renegade, fantastic job, decided to go make this octagon connector plate standard on the 2 fronts, the 2 backs. This, you can see there's an octagon here, right? Octagon there, octagon there. Fantastic. The issue with the Invader, that's not a good octagon. even when you like put the plates in there. So the 1x2s. So what I did tonight was I'm trying to, and I did the same thing with the original, by the way, because if I remember correctly, the Invader was 1 plate higher or lower than the Batrax and the Renegade. When you put the cockpits together with the other pieces, it sat high or low. I can't remember which one. And so I modified my Invader, the old original OG Invader, to fit nicely with the rest of them. So I did exactly the same thing this time, except this time took a complete rebuild, and I've only got the cockpit done so far. So this is the original cockpit, OG re-release, so it's got the original connector points on it. And what I did is I first of all, of course, did get that, but I also made this the octagon, the standard octagon that's here. So they fit perfectly. The other thing I did was, if you look here, it's got these yellow, the one plate of yellow at the very, very bottom on the Renegade, which also shows up here, which also shows up here, but was not on the Invader, because again, designed by a different person. Also shows up in the bottom here, right there, right? So what I did is I took my Invader from the bottom and I replaced the 4x8 plate with the yellow 2x whatever stripe of yellow. So now the Invader and the Renegade basically have the same setup. And on the back, the Invader's slightly different, but I wanted the octagon to line up. And so I made this, if I can show you this, I made mine one stud longer than the original out of the box one. I got rid of the 4x8 plate by putting the 2x plate, and then I used the 4x6 inverted slope pieces here, because they did it up here with this piece, but they brick built these back pieces here, these slopes back here. So I just replaced all those with 4x6, 1x6, and a 2x6 inverted slope piece, which then eliminated this guy and the 4x8 plate. And then I started building up. But what I wanted to keep was basically the entire front end. You can see it's basically identical. I didn't change anything up there. The trans red's the same spot. The logo's in the same spot. And the wings, I wanted to fold in almost exactly the same manner as the original re-released Invader. The one thing I didn't like on the original Invader, I got used to this fairly quick. So what I did like after a while was the original OG Invader. There was no tangent. There was no, these things were, one side was parallel to the rest of the ship. So it was either this way or, here, let me drop it, this way or this way. It didn't have this this acute angle here on the back and on the front. So or up to this angle when you open the wings. The original onset, I didn't like that, but it grew on me, so I wanted to keep this angle and this angle on my rebuild. But in order to, what I didn't like is this 2x3 inverted going to hold this panel, 1x2x1 panel, to hide the end of this trans red pipe lightsaber handle. I didn't like this piece jutting out like that, so I eliminated that. I eliminated that entirely. And then because the thing, because this 1x2 panel is out here, the wings do not fold. So there's a gap there. You can see the gap there, and it gets wider as it goes sort of forward, right? So it doesn't sit flush with the ship when the wings are folded up like that. I didn't like that. So what I did is I changed that by putting the 1x2 panel on the 6 wide, not the 8 wide. So it's so there's no gap when you do that. Yay! there's no gap. There's no gap back here. There's a gap up here, of course, because this thing goes down to 4 wide. This is 6 wide back here, and this is 4 wide up here. But back here, the wing is parallel to the 6 wide, which is what I wanted. But in order to do that, I had to change how the hinge plate was. And the original over there, the hinge plate folds this way and folds out this way. The hinge goes to the back, which causes me to have to add 2 studs to the back because you have the plate. And then again, I wanted the octagon, so I had to add a stud for that, a stud longer. And as I said, this thing is a stud longer than the original. You can see it's 1 stud longer, and that's to accommodate not only the hinge plate, but to get the octagon in. What I could have done, and then I also had to add these guys, the little wing plates, the 2x3 wing plates. So it does put that angle in there. See, look at that, the angle's still there. right? So this is sticking out the back now, which is not on the original. You can see the original, there's nothing on there. They hid it inside here. The wing plate folds inside that void here, so you don't see it. But then it sticks out the back like that. It's okay. I like mine better. But so I tried to fix all of that. So this thing is nice and flush all the way through. And when it's closed, this wing plate here that sticks out the back is reminiscent, by the way, of these wing plates here. Let me drop that again. I am tired. It's past 1 a.m. I was just listening to Marilyn Lightstone on, classical FM, 96.3. So this little homage here, my little wing plates back here, homage to these wing plates up here. I like those little wing plates. So that's what I did. So basically the front end from here forward is identical. From here back is completely reworked. It still has a sticker and no 2x2 towel, but it has the octagon. It doesn't look that bad when it went to the octagon, the extra stud in the back and these little wing plates. It doesn't look that bad. I might improve it more, but it looks pretty cool that way, and it looks pretty cool that way. So overall, I kept the aesthetic of this guy. It did lose some of its narrow scope from the front, of course, because it's got an octagon on the back. I was thinking about the Buzz Lightyear ship, and I was trying to incorporate some of that because it's got the 2-tier slope step here. This is here, and then this is one stud out. I do not have the 45 slope with the tile on top. These are the 45 slope with these plate on the bottom there, and then it's filled in the void. I'm gonna order some of those 45s with the little tile on the top because they're cool. But this is exactly the same. It's gonna look exactly the same. So in the end, this and this look remarkably similar. The one issue, because now we get into the next issue, is that the way this is designed to match up with this, so the holes are in the same height. So there's 2 plates and then the brick, and there's 2 plates and then the brick, the 1x2 brick, is that you look on here, basically there's 1 plate and then the connector point. So when you put these 2 things together, not that one, this one, there's that. But, and of course it's on top, it's stud higher. So what I'm gonna be doing, and this is my plan from the beginning, is I'm gonna rebuild the entire back half of the Invader 2 to match up with the octagon boxes. Which again, I will do at some point. And then I'm even gonna go back to there. And so what I plan on doing is that this thing is gonna stay as is. This thing is gonna have an octagon in the front, octagon in the back. And then, because I did find this thing a little chintzy, a little breakable, because they're trying to do too much in the small space that they have. I think if I went to the octagon box, the octagon connector like this, that's pretty solid, and I should be able to get this done inside that area. So there's going to be a 2 wide octagon in the front, 2 wide in the back, and then all the stuff in the middle. I'll figure it out. The back half, this is just going to be easy, changing that into an octagon instead of this odd octagon shape. See what happens. But I'll tell you, in the end, I am more than pleased, as always. And then, of course, when all this is done, then I'll be able to mix and match all the pieces from here onto here and back. I mean, right now, this thing can go onto the front like this, right? And take this piece off. Oh, it's already off. And where's that guy? There he is. And put that over there. See? See, now the Invader cockpit works perfectly well with the Renegade. And then the Invader cockpit, so you got that Invader cockpit, and you got this guy. Renegade cockpit. See, this is the whole point of Blacktron, right here. The entire whole point of Blacktron. So I want to be consistent with the octagon connector points and shape for all the parts and pieces. So when I build this module here with the proper octagon in front and back, you can put it on the Renegade, and it'll work. Right now it doesn't. So because you got this here, I want it all to line up, and that's just me. I do know other people have done some really cool modifications on the Renegade, and I think also the Invader. They reduced the amount of yellow the Renegade has, because again, the original Renegade, which again, the one problem with the landing gear, the original Renegade does not have a lot of yellow on it. Whereas the new one has a lot more yellow highlights. Now, I like the yellow highlights, so I don't plan on changing that. But a lot of people have removed, quote unquote, half the yellow highlights and changed them to black. That also looks good, but I like this. And so, what I want, as I say in the end, is to put a Renegade cockpit there, and Invader cockpit there, and mix and match. I know that my friend Jeffy was trying to make a bat racks out of parts that would be cohesively the same as this style. I don't know how far he's gotten. It was looking cool for a while when I was watching it, but in the end, lots of modifications can be done here. I do know by looking at now there's a lot of yellow here, but that's fine. But my next step is to change this guy, and I'm going to, and I'm going to put the 2x yellow plate on the bottom and build up from there, and we'll go from there. So this is what I am doing right now. I have yet another project that I really want to get into, but this one's been sticking in my mind. So this is where I am on it, and I'll keep you guys posted as I go through and make more changes and stuff. And that's it. That's all. I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll talk to you soon.